Okay, time for me to do a movie about a ship with boobs. Battle Beyond the Stars, everybody. Star Wars can claim responsibility for a lot of things, but not ships with boobs. And not least of which this rough little gem, which is a sort of controversy as to whether it's such a bad film it's good, or such a good film it fell from grace before it was even finished. Whatever the consensus, at least most of us can agree on one thing. It's 100 times better than the Star Wars prequels. Battle Beyond the Stars, otherwise known as John Boy in Space, yeah, consider that the last Walton's reference in this review, is definitely a strange gem in the rough from Roger Corman. Unlike many of the other films in the Star Wars vein that promised enjoyment and excitement, yeah, not even the self-proclaimed awesomeness of David Hasselhoff could save Star Crash, it actually delivers just that. And with only $2 million to work with, that's a sixth of what the Star Wars originally had. Corman took on a young and inspiring designer, James Cameron, who literally created sets out of anything he could find, egg boxes, old toys and the like, and created something quite convincing and inspiring which opened many doors for his future success. Inspired by the Magnificent Seven, which is in turn inspired by the Seven Samurai, Battle Beyond the Stars was actually marketed and pitched as the Magnificent Seven in space, and it originally pitched John Wayne as going to star in the film. But this was more likely a publicity stunt and a joke. Inspiration for both films can easily be seen throughout the film, as with the planet Akira and its inhabitants, the Akira, being named after Samurai's director, Akira Kurosawa. But its real pull was in the return of Robert Vaughn as Gelt, a reprisal of his dark mercenary character Lee from the Magnificent Seven. And out of all the characters in the movie, his was by far the deepest. But as you've often heard me say before, we'll get to that shortly. The story written by John Sayles is a pretty simple affair with surprising depth into the cultures involved. Sador, played by John Saxon, who leads an army of mutants in the Malmori, discovers a peaceful planet of farmers and philosophers, Akira. With his big ship, he decides to pop down and say, "Hello! I have a stellar converter, and it does this." Orders them to surrender to him and then shoots a few just to make the point. Just in case nobody was listening. Then, being the nice guy he is, remembers he has a promise to keep with another planet he bullied earlier and says he'll return in 7 days. Well, as it turns out, the Akira have nothing of physical value. No money, no wealth, no weapons, no anything pretty much. But they do have the Vada, which has helped the Akira develop a peaceful society for many decades. Not much help when you're up against a marauding Frankenstein psychopath who wants to farm you for body parts. But they do have one thing of value.
I have fought, and I am a son of Akir.
And you are an old man.
I have lasted this long by fighting.
We are all going to be killed. We are defenseless.
To fight creatures of violence, you must use creatures of violence.
Yep, an old man who grew up with more balls than these hippies. But as I stated before, the Vada have nothing to offer mercenaries, to which Grandpa Balls responds,
The violent fight for many reasons.
Ah, yes. So all they have to do is go out into space and locate several psychopaths to fight on their behalf. Shouldn't be too hard as this is a movie reference in space, so Space Bundy and Space Lecter should be happy to help, and if you fall asleep long enough I'm sure Space Kruger will be happy to help for a laugh.
I'd rather get you little buckaroos one at a time. Yee-haw! Yee-haw! Stupid cowboy!
Well, that sucks. Looks like they'll have to rely on Space John Boy instead. Yes, I know. I said I'd avoid another Space Waltons reference, but his face makes it so easy. Sorry, last time, I promise. There's no point in me going through every detail of this movie as it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's worth introducing Nell, the ship with a personality and who acts as the mentor of the film, and next to Gelt is probably the best thing about the entire movie. And yes, to go with her sassy personality, as I pointed out before, Nell has boobs. Are we happy now? Have I satisfied a certain younger demographic of my community that happens to be male? You know, I'm not sure if this was by coincidence or by design. I've delved deep and hard. Okay, let me rephrase that. I plunged into the depths of the... Okay. I looked into any information on Nell's design and could find no comment on it, so the boob aspect is going to be one of those mysteries never to be solved. But I am going to hazard us to a guess as to the size of those things. I'm guessing 36,000 double D. Oh god, I actually went there. I sold out just to get hits. So Shad, our John Boy in space, has a surprisingly colourful development of character throughout the movie, having to learn to develop the necessary bloodlust in order to save his world. And it's not an instant thing either, as we witness his conflicts of character development built from farm boy to warrior.
Lock in on target. Weapons activated. Now. Blast him!
I can't.
What?
I can't. I mean, if we blast him, we're going to tip our hand. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Can we outrun him?
We sure as hell can't outfight him, not with you in the driver's seat.
That's not exactly what you come to expect from a post-Star Wars rip-off, with nearly every character in these movies either being unhappy and ready to fight. He goes about his business looking for fighters for his cause, who mostly find him by accident or design. Such as Space Cowboy, a trader who would really rather stay out of trouble, but after Shad saves his life, agrees to give him the weapons originally on their way to a world Sador just recently destroyed, and train his people to use them. The Nestor, a race of clones who share the same experiences as each other, and who agree to join up to avoid being bored to death.
Let me rephrase that.
Cayman, a reptilian picked up by Nanila, a human girl Shad convinced to leave her cyborg grandfather to see the real world after being propositioned to mate with her rather than save his world. Yeah, I don't want to go there, it's pretty creepy. Anyway, Kador agrees to join up because he wants revenge for what Sador did to his world.
This is Cayman of the Lambda Zone.
Thank you for joining us.
I'm only in this for Sador. I want his head.
Oh, you're welcome to it.
And finally, the one character whose boobs could be considered bigger than Nell's, Saint Exim of the Valkyrie, a warrior race who live to fight.
But I wish to fight.
My planet is in danger, and you're playing tag with me. Your ship is like a toy. You have no firepower.
It is one of the fastest in the universe.
Well, the Varda teach us that swift rain is little rain.
But I want to join.
Well, we don't want you. We don't need you, and we won't have you. So go count your coup somewhere else.
You were a little harsh, weren't you?
You saw her. She was playing with me.
Yes, and she won.
Would you like me to short-circuit your audio?
In fact, the only person Shad actually goes looking for is Gelt, who shows just how well developed a character can be presented if real effort is put into it. Having settled so many disputes and made so many enemies, he's amassed so much wealth he can't leave his hiding place to enjoy it, and finds himself never sleeping with his back to the wall and with one eye open. Shad's proposal seems very welcoming to him as he agrees to sign up for a meal and a place to rest.
I could buy your planet 10 times over what I've gathered in this room. Plutonium, cadmium, qualine crystals. I've been very well paid for my work.
I'm sorry I've wasted your time.
No. Wait. Listen to the rest of it. I sleep with my back to the wall. When I can sleep. I eat serpents 7 times a week. There's not a major city in this galaxy where I can show my face or spend my wealth. Right now, your offer looks very attractive to me. A meal and a place to hide.
And all this character development from Gelt is brought about in less than 5 minutes of screen time. There's a lot that can be learned from this one scene alone.
So what do you think of him?
He'll fight all right, but he'll fight alone.
I don't care, just so long as he'll fight.
So with all the development out of the way, we finally have our magnificent 7. Just count the ships. And it's at this point, when the fighting starts, things get very confusing in the actual space battles. I'm not going to say the effects are lame. They're pretty okay for a low-budget space opera, but it's very confusing to understand who's fighting who as we actually don't see who the ships are engaging. I understand the strategy they're deploying, but that's only because it was explained in the scene before. But sadly, seeing spaceships shoot lasers is not enough to tell a story, and it's here they rely on telling instead of showing. It's crying out for a revamp. The ground battles, though, are actually very exciting, much better, and involve a lot of depth and well portrayed sacrifice.
What's the matter? What is it, Nell? What's the matter?
I'm okay now, Shad. I received a transmission.
What is it?
Said the Corsair has ended.
Oh. I'm sorry.
He was the last of the great ones.
I do have to confess, though, that the sacrifice of Gelt is very moving, as is his death scene.
Have somebody prepare a meal. A meal? Full course. Then bury it with him. Bury it? That was our arrangement. A meal and a place to hide.
The first of many, as the characters are picked off one by one in the final battle, and I have to confess with great drama and emotion as they finally pick away at Sador's defences, leaving Nell to make the final sacrifice to destroy his ship.
I am Saint Exmon of the Valkyrie. It's been a very enjoyable fight.
Live fast, fight well, and have a beautiful ending.
Whatever you think of the film personally, it's clear everyone in this has had a great time. It's cheesy, but not so cheesy as to roll your eyes at it. It has enough on the line to keep the characters desperate and well defined. Though many of them are shallow, Nell, Shad, Space Cowboy and Gelt are enough to carry on what would have been otherwise a mediocre cash cow in the shadow of Star Wars. It's definitely a saving grace, and I was glad to see this on the big screen when it first came out, as I don't think it fares so well on DVD or Blu-ray without the benefit of a big screen and the surround sound, as the cinematography and the music is simply epic. It's a cult classic that maintains its luster even today in its own dated fashion, and even though the space battles need a redux, that it has survived its status for so long that even today its stars come back to conventions for reunions speaks volumes for the love it has received. Personally, I see it as one of the better examples of low-budget sci-fi filmmaking of any period. Others see it as a B-movie gem that rises above the froth of other failed wannabes. As a recommendation, I'd certainly say give this one a go, if you want an 80s alternative to Star Wars, but don't expect anything more than a bit of fun with some decent, not great, writing and character development. So what's next? More boobs it seems as we look at vampires from space in the US-UK controversy Life Force. Till next time, ciao.